Stuff. So we're so happy to have you here in person because we have, I can't believe we're doing this, ALCS Game 3 to talk about. Let's start with Games 1 and 2. We've already talked to you about the ALDS, Game 5 and everything. So jumping into Games 1 and 2 here. I am pleasantly surprised that Seattle took both of these games. Do you see a common thread with how they've been able to get this done so far?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a total team effort. I think you're seeing their best baseball. And I think to make a Blue Jays team that made a Yankees team look quite bad is impressive. And I think it says a lot about where this roster is at. And it speaks to kind of what they've been building towards all season. And this is when you want to be peaking. And it's been incredibly impressive to see what they've been able to do.
Are you seeing a lot of Yankees fans? Because I'm seeing it on Twitter saying, I knew the Blue Jays were cheating. Look at them struggling against the Mariners. It's obvious now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is that really going to make you feel any better, Yankees fans? I don't really know is there ever a really way to talk to Yankees fans reasonably. But no, it's been an amazing thing. And again, it was easy to fall into this, they're going to be so exhausted. And instead, it just seems like they've been riding the wave. And I do have to imagine that it is a relevant point that they are used to traveling all over the place. And even that one off day, while it didn't seem like much of a break after a million innings on Friday in Game 5, I feel like that probably was enough to kind of reset and just keep on rolling. And that's you've just seen them at their best right now.
Stacey and I were having a conversation. Is there another level this team could go? And I go, yeah. And it's weird saying that, and they just won 10-3, right?
Yeah.
I gave my reasons and how I think they can get to that level. Do you think they can get to another level, and how do they get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still parts of the lineup, I guess. Again, you're getting so greedy at this point when you're playing so well.
But all the bats.
Yeah, but it is kind of amazing. I mean, you've basically gotten contributions at some point from literally everybody in the lineup at this point. I guess you could still point to Randy as someone that you're still waiting on that big hit, although he has still found his way on base and had some moments base running, of course, stealing some bags that has made a difference. But that's the big difference just watching this team, and we've been saying this all year. Just 1 through 9, you feel like something good's going to happen when anyone comes up to the plate. And yes, Gino is kind of going through it right now, but even when he has connected, has put a charge into one. So it's just the kind of the depth of this lineup that really stands out, and that's what makes it feel like it's really at a different level. I mean, I guess you want to say like Spire gets back to being amazing because he's obviously struggled the last few times out. But other than that, so many other guys are really performing at their best right now.
I want to talk about Gino for just a little bit. I've also felt like, he hasn't really just not quite had the second half, and he can be a streaky player, so I wasn't too worried. But we've already gotten questions today, yesterday about like, well, do you kind of move the lineup around and, put someone else? And it's like, no, because he's got so much power. So tell me if you've seen anything in this series that's like, well, maybe he could be breaking out here, or if you're just like, it is what it is, like you can't take him out.
I would be stunned if they mess with this lineup.
I mean, they shouldn't.
Really to any degree.
and
the other thing is it's also the cover that you have with the rest of the lineup. Of course, because everyone loves Gino, they want to see him kind of find his stride again. And unfortunately, it's just been a few swings with a lot of strikeouts in between, but it hasn't cost the team because there's so many other guys swinging the bats well. But you still have the possibility of him hitting a big homer still on the table. And I think that's why they'll probably keep him in the middle of the lineup there. And yeah, there's just really no reason to mess with this right now, especially for a manager like Dan Wilson. That would just be shockingly out of character to suddenly shake stuff up. I just think that they're really rolling.
Pitching in bombs is what I said earlier. I said that's how these guys win this ball game. It wasn't an original thought. Passon said it, and I seconded it. But I got some pushback on the text line saying, they're going to get themselves in trouble trying to launch the ball out. And my opinion is, you've done this all year. Why switch it up now? Should they continue to be aggressive?
Yeah. I think the key part of that strategy working, and I think that we kind of saw this over the course of the regular season, and this was even true when the strikeouts were even higher over the last couple of years, is the quality of the at-bats, even though sometimes they are ending in strikeouts, is still so much better. I mean, the degree to which they're able to foul pitches off and work at-bats, even if it doesn't necessarily end in a positive result, that has clearly been what helped against a guy like Tarek Skubal, but it's helped against really anybody. It helped a guy against Savage. And that is a core skill that is not going to suddenly disappear. Now, again, the results don't necessarily always come when you work those long at-bats. Sometimes you are going to end up striking out. but it clearly does have a cascading effect on the opponent where the pitch count's getting up. Now we're getting into the bullpen. And as we've seen in Toronto in these first couple games, like that's already a weakness. And so that is just putting yourself in position to have some big swings later in the game. So, again, strikeouts are still a part of the game, and that's going to be true for almost any team in the postseason right now. And honestly, you look at teams like the Brewers and the Blue Jays, who are known for not striking out, and they're struggling to put runs on the board, and that's because maybe they don't necessarily have the profile of guys that are able to work long at bats and then hit the ball over the fence the way that Seattle obviously has a balance of those guys.
I know we're 2 games in, but let's focus on the Blue Jays offense as though we're previewing it maybe for the first time, just for listeners who have maybe only watched them quite as closely. Through the start of this series so far, they were leading all postseason teams in slugging through obviously just an explosive ALDS series against the Yankees, are now last, haven't really done much of anything. I've been wondering if that trend continues even in a park that suppresses offense, just because it's so hard for me to think that they don't eventually heat up. So kind of a double barrel for you here, kind of to preview the offense for listeners who maybe need just a little bit of a primer of what they might see. And then 2, can Seattle use a similar approach with slider heavy, or are they going to need to alter that?
Yeah, I'm really curious for George. I think maybe this is going to end up being a decent matchup for Toronto. I think what you saw in the first game was, Bryce Miller was not necessarily getting a lot of swings and misses, but the Blue Jays definitely had some bad BABIP luck in that first game. But they're also just whiffing a ton, which is out of character. I think Kirby with that slider is what's kind of unlocked some more swing and miss. And so I would imagine he's going to go after that again. But he's also, as we know, in the zone a lot. And maybe that does favor Toronto's hitters to be able to kind of get some more stuff going. But I speculated this on the podcast we recorded this morning. Like, we saw in this, this is not news for the Mariners in this ballpark that it's hard to score there. But even just this last round, right? All 3 of those games were 3-2. And then it was really 3.5 games, if we're being honest, based on how Game 5 went. And so we know it's going to be almost certainly going to be low scoring for both teams. Maybe a tighter game there. I would have to say that favors the Mariners because we keep seeing them win those types, with the exception of Game 1 last round. But maybe Toronto breaks out again. They do have some really, really good bats there. I do believe in Vlad. I believe in Springer. I like some of their younger left-handed hitters. And those lefties are really going to be the ones that are going to have to show up against Kirby, whether that's Lucas, whether that's Barger. Again, these aren't necessarily household names, but they were huge parts of their success this season, and we haven't seen a lot of them so far.
I was reading something and they were talking about just a splitter and how it's making a comeback. And then I was looking at diagrams, and it is such a filthy pitch. It looks good for so long and just dies on you. Why do you think pitchers went away from that, and why do you think they're coming back to it now?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this pitch for a few years now, and I think that as we've had an uptick in pitchers coming over from Japan, that's a pitch that is extremely common in NPB and has been for a long time. We weren't seeing it as much over here, but now it is becoming very popular. And I don't know if there was a perception that it was maybe a dangerous pitch to throw from an arm health standpoint, and maybe guys have learned grips and ways to throw it that it feels like a little bit more sustainable. But this is really the pitch that has kind of felt like a cheat code for a lot of pitchers, starters and relievers, where it's like, hey, just throw that thing. If you can throw that, roughly around the zone and it has the right movement, it is going to be really, really, really difficult to hit. We've seen that. Obviously, we saw it even with the Mariners with Dossman until it didn't. The risk of it is a bad splitter is a really, really bad pitch. Yeah. Because you hang something like that, it's probably going over the fence. It's also interesting because I've actually been wondering about this. Kirby's gone away from the splitter this year, and he's really leaned into the slider. And I don't know if that's just a grip thing, whereas, of course, we've seen Gilbert, obviously, Bryce Miller have clearly leaned on that pitch, and a lot of other pitchers across the league, not just the Japanese aces, which, Yamamoto, my goodness, if you saw him last night, his last pitch of the game was 92 mile-an-hour splitter, 111th pitch of the game to strike out Contreras, or I don't know if it was Contreras, but that pitch is really special, and I don't think it's an accident because teams just know, that pitch works, and you should just keep throwing it if you can throw it.
I actually am glad that you ended with mention of that game, because while the majority of our conversation will be about ALCS Game 3 and be about the Mariners, we did want to take a little bit of time to talk about the NLCS, particularly when it comes to, in my opinion, more interesting to me is that macro conversation about, the Dodgers are buying their way. And look, as someone who, and I'm sure like many listeners, or probably all 3 of us, kind of are fine with hey, be aggressive, spend more. It's not illegal. It's not against the rules. There's kind of this feeling of well, okay. Jeff Passan obviously making an interesting point about the implications of, well, if the Dodgers go and win it all, there could be a point made during those CBA negotiations about, whether having a salary cap is necessary. What do you make of just the Dodgers, their approach? They could be a team that Seattle, if they're fortunate enough to get through here, faces. But also about the implications maybe of them.
Yeah, that piece from Jeff was really interesting, and it felt very dramatic. We haven't talked about it on our pod yet, so I'm kind of working my way through the thoughts on this. And I love Jeff, and I think that there's a lot behind what he's getting at. There's part of me that also thinks that, like, well, let's see how next postseason goes, because that's what's going to really feel fresh as we go into the winter. And again, as we look at it now, it sure seems like the Dodgers we know the Dodgers will be in the postseason in some form next year too. We don't know how healthy they're going to be. We talk about the Mariners peaking at the right time. I mean, that's what's happening right here. The Dodgers, for 3 months, were the rotation was a joke. I mean, it was, now most of these guys were just strictly not available, and the guys that they were rolling out there was just like, really, this is, and they stayed the course. Of course, they had enough offense to kind of get through and win another division. And now you're just seeing an unbelievable collection of pitchers, which, if we are going to lean back into the narratives, but also just the truth of the situation for their team, which is, these are players that they've spent a lot of money to have. And that is Yamamoto. That is Blake Snell, right? That is Tyler Glass now. And so credit to them, because, again, I'd rather all the baseball teams try to get the good baseball players as hard as they can. We understand that there's a lot of markets that literally could not possibly afford a Yamamoto contract or even a Snell contract. But as we also know, the Dodgers are doing a lot of things really well beyond that. I will say, though, right now, the story of their postseason has been those starting pitchers, which they went out and flexed that Dodgers financial muscle for. And I totally get people being frustrated by that. And you also kind of give them credit, because they are prioritizing winning as much as anybody. And you gotta give them credit for that.
I know where you stand with it.
Yeah.
The LA native.
Oh, you don't mind the Dodgers dominating base?
Grew up a Dodgers fan.
What you have to do.
It's fine. No, right.
You see what I got on, though, man. It's
we'll see in the next round how that goes, if it gets to that point.
So a lot of folks around here are upset because Cal is not a finalist.
I had a feeling this was going to come up.
Gold Glove situation.
Yes.
So what I've learned over the past, I've been locked in baseball, maybe 10 years, right? What I've learned is that there are just so many stats in baseball, right? And I try to make sense of it. Some of it I have to literally take notes, because the acronyms are jacking me up. I'm like, what the heck is RCERA? What is RGFP? And I'm going in, I'm trying to find reasons why he wouldn't be a finalist. Not because I don't think he is, but I'm trying to just figure out how they view Cal as a catcher. What do you think of that situation? Do you feel I'm not mad at him? I looked at the numbers of the guys who are in front of him, and I go, okay, this makes a little bit of sense, but I do believe that he's worthy. What are your thoughts?
I think Gold Glove discourse is one of the most interesting ones, because the process behind how they end up getting to the finalists, which is a combination of stats that Rawlings uses, as well as like players and coaches that are nominating. It's not the writers or whatever. It's a very different process than the main awards. A little bit more opaque, a little bit more difficult. Regardless of exactly how it gets decided, the Gold Gloves are something where there are just a lot of good defenders, and it's always hard for the people to believe that only watch one team that anyone could possibly be better than their guy.
Right.
And the reality is that we do have enough stats that tell you that, Cal's awesome, and maybe this other guy this year was a little bit more awesome. Is he worthy? Is he a Gold Glove caliber catcher? Of course. We just proved that last year, and there's no way he changed that much this year from an effectiveness standpoint that says that he's suddenly that much worse. I think if you really want to try and explain it objectively, he just didn't throw out as many runners this year, and some of the framing numbers were not quite as strong. Whereas right now, I mean, those guys that finished ahead of him, like Kirk, as far as advanced catching numbers go, Kirk is him and Patrick Bailey in the National League have separated themselves. And Dingler is a beast. That guy's awesome. Carlos Narvaez, also an amazing season. I will also say, even just zooming farther out, this feels like a more legitimate gripe when your team's been eliminated and you have nothing else to talk about. I think people understand that Cal Raleigh is awesome.
It's our usual approach over
there. Cal Raleigh in the running for AL MVP may have also been deserved.
And maybe he wins MVP, maybe not. But right now, awards, I don't know why Mariners fans are
Yeah.
concerned about that. Of course, you want Cal Raleigh to get his credit, and that's totally legitimate. But he's what matters is that he's going to be behind the plate in Game 3 of the CS where
Yeah.
they're up 2-0. That's really, I think, what people should
You know what I think part of
care
it
about.
is, though, and
Yeah.
again, both Bump and I, we like you said, we talked about it earlier, and both of us mentioned some of the same names. Like these guys were great. Like it's okay, and it's okay also if Cal wasn't as good as he was last year, because what you're comparing Cal to is the Platinum Glove version of Cal instead of just like above average catcher Cal. But I think part of it is it does stem from the MVP debate, which you can assume. And I think it's that, well, if you're going to say that part of what makes Cal so special is, oh, he's also a catcher, then people want to be able to be like, and one of the best.
Sure. Which of course, you're still leaning on what he did last year or won that award. But I also think that is also part of it where it's like he got that. It's not like he's never won a Gold Glove or never won. Like he's earned that. But I get it. It is all connected.
Well, it's a knock people have made with like, well, he's not even that as good defensively. And it's
which,
like,
again,
well, we also can't measure that accurately.
Well, and that's the other thing is for all the stats that we do have, whether it's framing, whether it's blocking, whether it's controlling the running game, that still doesn't even come close to encapsulating what a catcher is actually doing from the mental workload, which Cal has talked very explicitly about and saying all of this is more mentally exhausting than it is physically exhausting. And that you truly, I don't think we'll ever be able to capture. And but that's true for these other catchers also. You know, they're catching a lot of innings and they're doing a lot too. And so I'll say too, if you want me to stoke the fire of fans getting mad, I think it's going to be more legitimate to be mad about Julio not winning than Cal not winning.
Yeah.
I can't see a world where Julio doesn't win.
I can see it.
What?
Again,
I feel like he's been far and away the best defensive center
I agree
fielder.
with you. If I'm just pulling up Fangraphs and sorting and looking at all the different numbers, there is definitely a world where he doesn't win. I think he deserves it for sure, but we'll see. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Because again, it's really hard for me to predict these things. Like every year the finalists come out, and there's some where I'm like, how in the world did he even get in the top 3? And then sometimes there are winners that you just don't see coming. So this is a tough one to analyze and predict. I think it kind of makes it fun, but it's also one where I can't take it too seriously because it's a huge range.
I want to go back to the trade deadline. You pick up Naylor first, then you pick up Suarez. And we're looking at Suarez saying, that's the pick. Naylor's going to help, but that's the pick. And now it's flip-flop. Like Naylor has been the main contributor. And the more I see him have success, the more I'm thinking we have to sign this guy. How important is it? No matter what happens, I know we're already looking towards the postseason, but no matter what happens, how important is it that they try or they do get this done with Naylor?
Yeah. I mean, he's a great fit, and I would make a lot of sense. But I am going to defer for the same reasons I just said about awards, because it's like he's helping you right now, and it doesn't matter. And I also want to just harp on kind of strengthening your point, too, about why I think he has shined in a very degree, maybe relative to Suarez. This is something that we talked about on our show after the trade happened, and I've watched Josh up close in Cleveland over the last couple of years and kind of understand the kind of player and hitter that he is. He has way more finesse to his game, as we've learned across the game, not just as a hitter, than you would think. I mean, again, you look at him, it's like, oh, well, that's the big slugger. That's the guy that goes up there and swings as hard as he can and hits the ball over the fence. And he does go up there and swing he's giving you some real A swings for sure. But there's a lot more finesse in that game, in that swing. I just think about that double against Skubal. There's no one else on the roster that can do that. There really isn't. And there's not a lot of guys in the league that can do that, to have the combination of strength, bat control, to take 100 off the plate and go the other way for a double. That's what Josh Naylor is capable of. And those skills is really what shines in October, when the pitching gets really good and you have to be making more contact. Whereas, again, this is not to dunk on Gino, but it's like it's going to be a lot harder. If you're going up there and you are trying to just hit the ball over the fence, the best pitches that are executed, you're probably going to swing and miss. And I think we've started to kind of see that dynamic in play in October. But, hey, that's why, again, going back to what the front office deserves credit for, it's going after both of them. It's doubling down. It's doing 2 separate trades with the same team to make sure that you end up with 2 of the best bats available.
When I know some people feel like predicting a series or giving an outlook in a series kind of will jinx the series. So I'm saying this knowing this, but I do want to have a little bit of an outlook here. I'm not saying like call who wins it and how many games, but from the perspective of, let's say, a Mariners fan who goes, God, it's so hard for me not to be a pessimist.
Sure.
Like, I've seen this team mess up so many times. And also worth noting, they've never been further than this.
Nope.
Never won 3 games in an ALCS.
Nope.
Clearly have never won an AL pennant, have never gone to a World Series. We already know those stats. What kind of, maybe not reassurance, but like outlook would you give someone who goes, hey, tell me Seattle's got a real shot here?
Yeah. I'll actually start with the pessimism, which is not what you asked, and I'll finish.
That's great.
I'll finish on a high note, which is that, yeah, I mean, you can't get too comfortable in these series. I mean, I was just there in Detroit last week after they had dominated Game 3, and they're up 3-0 in Game 4, and I'm getting ready to. I mean, I'm sitting there in the press box. All right, I'm like, okay, Mariners are going to the ALCS. I'm starting to write that story. I'm writing about Bryce Miller, and I'm like, all right, here we go, Mariners. Here they go. They're about to go. It was going to be the anniversary of the Edgar double, and I was like, okay, here we go. And then suddenly the Tigers had 9 runs. And it's like, okay, well, postseason is weird, and you don't know what's going to happen. And also, because we've seen them play these close games, you don't know how close it's going to. If you're putting yourself in a game like they've played at home against the Tigers, you might end up on the wrong side of them. Okay, there's my pessimism. Here's my optimism. They look like the better team, and it's not particularly close right now. And when you have this many players playing well on both sides of the ball, and you have this kind of confidence, and you have this kind of home crowd, which is obviously going to be very excited to see them back home with the 2-0 lead, of course you're going to have that feeling because they've never been this far, but the players are the players. And right now, I mean, this is just a really, really, really good team. And even if some of the guys end up falling back and regressing and it, the moment gets too big and they start swinging out of their shoes, like, the chances are there's another guy that's going to have a big game because they just have that many players playing well right now.
I'm assuming you're going to the game. You didn't
I'll be there.
Come all the way out here just to hang out with us.
I like you guys a lot, but that would be not exactly. I don't think Yahoo's paying for me to come be on the show.
Need to go see Bump and Stacy.
Yes. I'm here to. I will be covering these games.
What are you looking forward to the most?
Humpy, right? I mean, that's.
Have we talked about whether or not Humpy should
win again?
Yeah.
So we debated this on the show. And by the way, if you haven't read my colleague Jake Mintz, look at Jake pumping out the awesome Mariners coverage. So shouts out to him. Yeah, I mean, this is what a story. And I haven't even seen the Salmon run in person because I haven't been here since 23. So that, again, I'm so looking forward to the baseball. But I'm definitely excited to see that. Do I think that Humpy's going to win again? I think I do, but I'm not sure. We'll see where it's at in the game, right?
Yeah, my take was that. Tell me if I'm wrong with this one, neither of you. My take was that the magic with Humpy winning isn't that it doesn't happen. And if you just have Humpy keep winning, on the one hand, you're signaling like this is good luck, it's going to happen, believe in unbelievable things. Like, I totally get the metaphor. But it becomes less special. Every time he wins, it becomes a little less special.
That's why it's like trying to replicate that magic is part of the challenge of shouts out Tyler Thompson, the director of game entertainment, who talked to us for the story, and just, I mean, some incredible quotes in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I honestly don't envy that assignment to kind of make that decision.
It's tough. It's like you're dealing with an entire metaphor and really fun entertainment.
Yeah, there's a lot of really funny ways that they could do it, and I trust them because the Mariners are pretty good at this kind of thing. So we'll see how they handle it. But I'm just excited. I mean, look, postseason baseball is awesome, and this is a fun time of year.
Okay, tell listeners before we let you go where they can find more of your coverage for the rest of this series.
Yeah, so Baseball Barbacast we just had. I woke up at 6 a.m. to record upon this morning, so definitely go check that out. Some Game 3 thoughts, some thoughts, really more thoughts about the NL, especially after what Yamamoto did last night. And then I'm basically going to be here on the road here for the rest of the postseason. So however far the Mariners go, I will be there and writing about it and talking about it on Baseball Barbacast. So.
Will you please text us or DM us and let us know your thoughts on being at T-Mobile, especially with just the noise. And we can't wait to hear about it. We hope you have the best time. If you guys see Jordan, make sure to say hi if you see him out there. All right, he is Yahoo Sports Jordan Shusterman. 4 Down Territory coming your way next.
2 Down.